A tense military encounter between U.S. forces and Venezuela in the Caribbean has triggered a sharp warning from Washington. A senior U.S. official said any move that threatens American ships in international waters will be treated as a direct challenge. At 4:17 local time, the calm over the Caribbean Sea broke without warning. Two Venezuelan F-16 fighter jets burst out of the eastern sky, flying low and fast over international waters. Their speed held steady at more than 500 miles per hour. Their altitude dropped below 2,000 feet. Ahead of them was the U.S. Navy destroyer Jason Dunham, following a routine patrol route, moving at 20 knots. Nothing aggressive, nothing hidden. Instead of turning away, the jets angled closer. Mile by mile, the distance closed. 5 miles. 4. 3. On the bridge of the Jason Dunham, watch officers tracked the approach in real time. This was no mistake. The course was deliberate. Alarms did not scream, but screens changed color. Procedures shifted. Every second mattered. The ship stayed on course, but the situation tightened fast. This was a clear test. This was not about navigation. This was a message. Venezuela was signaling presence, pushing limits, watching how U.S. forces would respond. What they did not know was how much force was already in position and how closely every move was being measured. If you want to follow this confrontation as it unfolds and understand what happens next, subscribe now and stay with us for the full breakdown. This moment matters because the location is not random. The Caribbean Sea is one of the most watched bodies of water on the planet. Major shipping lanes pass through it every hour. Energy, cargo, food supplies, and commercial traffic move here day and night. Every mile is covered by radar, satellites, and patrol aircraft. When a military encounter happens here, it is seen instantly and judged carefully. The Jason Dunham was not near Venezuelan shores. It was operating in international waters, where U.S. ships patrol legally and regularly. That distinction is critical. When Venezuelan F-16 seconds flew close anyway, it changed the meaning of the encounter. This was not about defending airspace. It was about testing boundaries. It was about seeing how far they could go without triggering a response. For Venezuela, this area has become a pressure point. U.S. forces have increased their presence around Puerto Rico and the southern Caribbean. Warships rotate through. Aircraft fly overhead. Marines train close by. From Caracas, that buildup feels tight and uncomfortable. Flying fighters close to a U.S. ship is a fast way to signal frustration and defiance without firing a shot. But for the sailors on board the Jason Dunham, this was not politics. It was not theory. It was a real shift from routine patrol to potential danger. Watches were real. Distances were real. If something went wrong, there would be no time for debate. Decisions would have to be made in seconds, not minutes. That is why these encounters carry weight far beyond the moment. They test discipline on both sides, they test judgment, and they reveal how quickly calm seas can turn into something far more serious. And this is where the story moves from meaning to motion, because once the signal was sent, the first real responses were already starting to unfold. The first response did not start with shouting or sudden moves. It started with a quiet change on a screen. Inside the Combat Information Center of the Jason Dunham, two radar tracks shifted color. Green turned yellow. That meant the contacts were no longer just passing traffic. They were now being watched closely, second by second. A technician leaned closer to the console, adjusting range and speed filters. The numbers locked in. Both aircraft were real. Both were moving fast. The distance dropped below 10 miles. That was close enough to matter. An officer confirmed heading and altitude out loud, slow and clear, so there would be no confusion. No one rushed. Training took over. On the bridge, the sea looked calm, almost peaceful. But below deck, time felt different. Every update came faster than the last. The fighters were steady, not weaving, not climbing away. That choice was important. It told the crew this was intentional. This was pressure. The destroyer did not change course. It did not accelerate. That was also a message. Holding speed and heading showed confidence and control. At the same time, internal systems adjusted quietly. Sensors refined their focus. Defensive options were reviewed but not touched. Fingers stayed close, but no one crossed the line. This was the narrow space where accidents happen. A wrong turn, a misread signal, a pilot pushing too far. Everyone in the room understood that a few seconds could decide whether this stayed an encounter or became something far worse. If you think the US response showed discipline under pressure, press 9. If you believe Venezuela was forcing a reaction on purpose, press 1. The jets reached their closest point, then held. No flares, no radio calls, just speed, distance, and silence. The crew watched, waited, and measured. This was restraint in real time, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. And as the seconds passed, it became clear this was only the first layer. The situation was not calming down. It was setting up for something bigger. The escalation did not come with noise. It came with persistence. The Venezuelan jets did not break away. They did not climb. They stayed low and parallel, holding their angle as if testing how long the moment could be stretched. Every second they remained close increased the risk, not because of weapons, but because of physics. At this distance, even a small turn could change everything. On the Jason Dunham, the crew felt the strain settle in. Long encounters wear people down, eyes dry, focus narrows. Every watch officer knew that fatigue is as dangerous as any missile. The ship continued forward, steady and controlled, refusing to give the pilots above any excuse to claim provocation. Inside the combat center, radar returns grew denser. Reflections overlapped. Sea clutter mixed with air tracks. The system worked harder to separate signal from noise. This is how pressure builds in real life. Not all at once, but layer by layer. One more contact, one more update, one more decision waiting to be made. There was no sound except the hum of equipment and the low vibration of the hull. Outside, the ocean remained calm. That contrast made the moment heavier. Calm water does not mean a calm situation. It only means there is nothing to hide behind. Command checks were repeated, bearings confirmed, distances verified again. No shortcuts, no assumptions. In close encounters, discipline is the only thing that keeps control intact. A 5-degree turn by a jet, a sudden change in speed, either could force a reaction in seconds. From the Venezuelan side, the message was clear. They wanted to be seen. They wanted to be counted. From the US side, the message was quieter but stronger. We are watching. We are ready. We are not blinking. If you think this kind of pressure game is dangerous and risks going too far, press 9. If you believe showing force like this is the only language both sides understand, press 1. As the standoff continued, it became clear this was no longer just about 2 jets and 1 ship. It was about how far each side was willing to push without crossing a line that cannot be erased. And that line was getting closer. What changed the situation was not something anyone could see from the deck. From the surface, it looked like the standoff was frozen in place. 2 jets holding position, 1 destroyer holding course. No sudden moves, no obvious shift. But beneath that calm picture, the balance was already tilting. The Venezuelan pilots believed they were controlling the moment. By staying close and steady, they assumed they were forcing the US ship to react. What they could not see was how the encounter had already expanded beyond them. This was no longer a one-on-one situation. Far beyond the horizon, additional US assets were already in motion. Aircraft were repositioned. Sensors were layered. Information flowed faster than the jets could adjust their plan. The destroyer was no longer just a ship on patrol. It was a node in a much larger network. Inside the Jason Dunham, the mood shifted subtly. Not relief, not confidence, awareness. The crew understood something the pilots above did not. Time was no longer working in Venezuela's favor. Every extra second in close proximity added exposure. Every repeated pass made patterns easier to read. What began as a show of presence was slowly turning into predictability. No announcement marked the change. No alarm sounded. But experienced eyes noticed it. The tension no longer felt like it was hanging in the air. It felt like it was moving somewhere else. This is often where miscalculation begins. when one side believes it is pressing advantage while the other is quietly setting conditions. If you think Venezuela realized the balance was shifting in time, press 1. If you believe they stayed too long without seeing the full picture, press 9. The jets were still there, the ship was still steady, but the encounter had crossed an invisible line. The next moments would not be about signaling anymore. They would be about consequences. The climax did not arrive with explosions, it arrived with silence. A silence so tight that every small sound stood out. The low hum of electronics, the steady vibration of the ship's engines, the soft confirmation calls moving through the combat center. Everything seemed to slow down, even as the risk reached its highest point. The Venezuelan jets made another pass, closer than before. Their angle shifted by only a few degrees, but everyone on board felt the change immediately. In close encounters, small movements are never small. A slight turn at this distance can force reactions that no one can fully control once they begin. On the bridge, eyes stayed forward. No sudden orders were shouted, no voices were raised. Below deck, a short command moved calmly across the room. Maintain course, maintain speed. The decision was clear. Do not escalate, do not retreat. Hold steady. That choice mattered more than any weapon. For several long seconds, time stretched. The jets were close enough now that their presence was no longer just numbers on a screen. It was real. Metal moving fast through open air. Intent without words. Every person involved understood that a single mistake from either side would be impossible to undo. Hands stayed still. Fingers remained away from switches. Training held the line where fear could not. This was discipline under pressure, not for show, but because there was no other safe option left. Then, almost quietly, the balance shifted. The fighters began to drift outward, slowly at first, then with clear intent. The distance opened. 5 miles, 7, 10. The danger did not disappear, but the pressure eased just enough to breathe again. No one cheered, no one relaxed. The crew stayed focused, watching for a sudden return or a sharp turn back in. Only when the jets finally angled away did the tension begin to drain from the room. This was control without celebration, survival without spectacle. This was the moment where restraint proved stronger than aggression, where patience mattered more than power. If you believe the US response prevented a dangerous escalation, press 9. If you think Venezuela achieved its goal simply by forcing this moment, press 1. The sea stayed calm, the mission continued. But everyone on board knew this encounter did not end when the jets faded from view. Because moments like this do not fade, they settle into memory, and they shape what happens next. When the encounter ended, nothing on the surface looked different. The Jason Dunham continued its patrol. The sea stayed calm. No damage was reported. No sailors were injured. On paper, it was an uneventful day. But moments like this are never measured by what breaks. They are measured by what was almost tested. For the US Navy, the message was clear. The ship completed its mission without changing course or posture. That outcome matters. It shows that pressure alone does not force a reaction. It shows that discipline can hold even when seconds matter. Every crew member involved will remember how close it came, and that memory sharpens future responses. For Venezuela, the flyby delivered visibility but also exposure. The jets were seen, their patterns were observed, their limits were noted. What began as a signal of presence also revealed how small their margin really is when facing layered US forces operating together across sea and air. Beyond the ship and the jets, the impact spreads wider. Encounters like this shape planning, training, and posture across the entire region. More patrols follow, more aircraft rotate in, more eyes stay open longer. Each close call tightens the system, making the next one even less forgiving. This is how modern deterrence works. Not with constant battles, but with moments where both sides walk up to the edge and decide whether to step back. No shots were fired this time. No headlines announced a crisis, but the balance was tested and both sides felt it. And that is why this incident will not be forgotten quickly. because the next encounter may happen faster, it may be closer, and it may not allow the same room for restraint. Decisions may have to be made with even less warning, and the margin for error may shrink to seconds. This was not the end. It was a signal of what the Caribbean could look like if pressure keeps building.